Hello, I'm Jacob, and I'm currently a teacher at Red Bluff High School, a PE teacher. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this unit done in my class yet due to the testing that we're doing for the mile and for our soccer games that we had going on. But I have taught this unit to myself in my head over and over, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it when I implement it with my classes. So I'll start off by introducing the unit and saying that we will be starting a 3-week unit on disc golf. We don't call it a frisbee in this. Usually, an ultimate frisbee, you use a true frisbee. In this, you're actually using a disc golf disc. So that's the way we introduce it, and that's what the game is called, as opposed to ball golf, where you're using a ball and a club. Similar rules, but I'll go over that after I introduce the unit to the students. So start off, it's a 3-week unit. The goal of this unit is to get the students outside, moving around, and interacting with one another with respect and good attitude. The game teaches patience and etiquette, and you have to abide by the rules, and it's also a game of integrity and honesty. So as we go along, the unit will definitely put an emphasis on that and just the social aspect of the game, because it's a fairly simple game in the grand scheme of things, but it's really good with building character and also getting the kids up and moving around. So as I start the unit, I'll pose the question to the class to ask if anybody's ever participated in disc golf or been on a disc golf course. Some may raise their hand, or I may not get any, and that's okay. But if somebody does raise their hand, I will confirm with them that if they feel comfortable enough to come up to the class to demonstrate some throws or go over rules or what they would look for in disc golf, then I'll have them come up there just to kind of have student representation during the lesson. As we talk about it and we go over the instructions for safety and equipment, I'll present the disc to everybody, and then we'll go over the basic premise of the game, which is you stand in the tee box, and when it's safe to throw and in order of your turn, you take your shot and you aim it towards a specific basket, which counts as a hole. It would be called a hole in ball golf, but in disc golf it's called a basket. So how do we get there? Well, as you take your first shot, we'll issue them a mid-range, I guess it's just a mid-range. It's instead of a club, it'd be a disc. And this will serve as their driver, their mid-range shot, and their putter, because it's kind of like a utility disc. So we didn't have to have everybody having 3 separate discs at one time carrying them around. A lot easier for us to keep track of equipment as teachers, and we don't have discs and equipment all over the place. So we'll talk about grip and hold with them, and how to deliver the disc down with form of pointing their elbow and getting their hips through and following through on extension. So the first thing and most important one is they have to establish how they're going to grip the disc. So it would be, you could go 4-finger grip here. That's a more powerful, less accurate. We're definitely going to get some distance. Or you can grip it with a single finger disc grip on the outside in order to throw it down the fairway. So after I discuss the grip with them, I discuss how important it is to make sure that you have a clear shot before you throw it. That's a part of etiquette and a part of safety with that. Making sure that you're not close enough to the group ahead of you in order to hit them if you were going to hit your drive shot or your approach shot on the basket if they were putting on the green. We make sure that they comprehend all of this, and as we go through it, if I have any Spanish-speaking students in the class or English learners, not just Spanish, but somebody where English isn't their first language, we'll discuss the name of the disc, which is similar to frisbee anyways in Spanish. I can't pronounce it that well. What we're playing on, which is a course, how to throw, what the mechanism of movement is, which would be to throw. We have that as a vocabulary word. And then the score that you're trying to get, which is par. And then obviously there's birdie and eagle, and we'll give those vocab to English learning students as well. We want to make sure that they're comprehending everything that we're trying to do, the rules of the game, and how to work together within those rules to make sure that they have a fun and exciting game, as well as keep their focus on the game as they're walking around, getting their activity in. So We would establish those rules, order in which they throw, what the par of the course is, and then we would go through how to get there and what you're going to be aiming at. So as we work on their skills, their motor skills to get this game going, we would use this as a representation of a basket. We'd line them up, and they would get into the teams that I put them in, mainly just the roll call lines, and they would all have their opportunity to throw the disc at this target at a medium distance, say like 50 yards, in order to see how close that they can get, to show control and power. And once they've grasped the concept of what they're trying to do, I'll allow them to switch their grip, and they can use a wrist flick or a backhand roll in order to see how close they can get to the target that's established out in the field, in order to make sure that they have different styles of throws. If there's a tree in the way, that they have to go over a fence and things like that. And then give them time to discuss with other class members and members of their group on what their approach would be for that specific activity. Once we've established that they're being safe, they're understanding how to throw and what the general concept of the game is, we'll then talk about the scorecard and what the scorecard means and how you would mark their score. So usually go out in 4 people groups. Everybody's name will be on the side here, and then each hole will have a designated yardage on there. And once they figure out what the yardage is, that's from the tee box, and how far they have to throw in order to get it to the designated basket. Once again, we'd be using these to start off, and then we would upgrade to baskets as we got a full course set up. They're usually about 4 foot high at the bottom, with chains hanging down in order to serve as a backstop for these to slow it down as they putt. Once they understand that, then they can kind of figure out how to attack the holes and how far they need to throw each shot in order to get it to the basket. Here's where the interaction really comes, and the etiquette comes, and the honesty comes into play, because they'll be playing with their groups, and once everybody tees off and throws from the designated tee box, they'll be walking most of the course and conversing with one another and discussing shots that happen, and who's the furthest away from the hole to take the next shot. And they'll also be paying attention to other groups that are on holes around them to make sure that they're all playing the game properly as well. And then you get into scoring, where you can score par, which is the average score for the hole. There's birdie, which is one less than what the average stroke per hole is. And then there's a bogey, which is one above the average score for that hole. And each student is responsible for keeping their own score and calling any fouls, i.e. water hazard, out of bounds, or anything like that, and then putting a stroke penalty to their score. So there's a lot of honesty and integrity that come into play. With English learners in this, there may be some barriers as to how they get their point across on maybe what a water hazard is or what it actually means, in which case we can try and give them the tools necessary or an opportunity to look up what those rules actually mean in their own language to fully comprehend what we talk about when we're adding stroke penalties, or what to expect when they're going out there for the ground rules. I think the biggest issue that we might have is that we don't have the technology out on the course to give them instant feedback, but on their scorecards, you can put a comment section on there, and they can write down anything that they didn't understand, and then before the next class session, we can take care of that and clear up anything, so we can make sure that the etiquette of the game is understood by them, as well as the rules, and it'll create a more competitive atmosphere with them, and then they'll be more willing to interact with people of their group because they understand what's going on throughout that game. So we start off with throws, target practice, rules and etiquette, a little bit of vocab for that, and then we allow them to go into their groups and play the course. And then anything that happens from then on, especially with English learners, we take care of session by session to make sure that they're comfortable in the class setting.